action. We are recording. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the 2020 meeting of the Downtown Lexington Management District. 8:31, as Brother Sweeney has told me, so we are off and running. We do have quorum. Thank you all for being here. You have a packet in front of you, I believe. Starting with the consent agenda, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting we had back in November of 2019, as well as the financial statements. You will note in the financial, we are sitting on a fair amount of money right now. The tax bills have been out and paid, and so we have been the recipient of those funds. We're currently around $453,000, which is one of our, be close to, if not the all-time high for us, and from here it goes downhill for expenditures. But anyway, those are the two motions in your packet and on the floor with regard to a consent agenda.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. We'll go to the public forum. Anyone wish to make any presentations at this time? The floor is open for anyone who'd like to do that.
I'd like to wish Elvis Presley a happy 85th birthday.
So duly noted. Oh. Brother Webb, so duly noted. Thank you very much. Very good.
Didn't see that one coming.
I did not see that one coming, Woodford. I did not see it coming.
Woodford's even throwing a big birthday party for him this afternoon.
Oh, that's right. Is that what the ribbon cutting's all about? That's right. That's good. Let's jump into item number 6, which is our renewal process. Terry, where are we? Or who's
Yeah,
Ethan?
I was going to
Who we doing?
have Ethan lead off, give a summary, and then I think Jacob is going to kind of talk about process moving forward.
Okay.
Sure. So we started the renewal process end of September, early October, and I think we went over a little bit of kind of the methodology behind it. So we had an initial mailing of a brochure, letter from our board chair, and then petitions for each property that showed their assessment, how much their property was worth, the percentage of the district, and all of that is stuff we're required to send to everybody every year by mail. And so we included it this year with the renewal petition and return envelope for people just to sign and send petitions back. We then had 2 days of public meetings where at 3 different times during the day we made ourselves available for people to come and ask questions, learn about the district, watch the informational video. We did not get much response to that, although anybody that's involved in public meetings can sometimes tell you sometimes no response is better than the reason that a lot of people might show up for things like that, which is because they have real problems. Then we began outreach from the Budget and Renewal Committee and from the rest of the board, just peer-to-peer outreach, as well as from Beverly knocking on 1 million doors, and Thomas probably talking to everybody at Main and Rose, and really that one-on-one contact with everyone. And so right before the new year, we passed the 50% mark that we were looking for the renewal. So legally, by state statute, it's 33% to form a district of the properties to sign on. However, as we did whenever the district was created, we were really getting in excess of 50%, so that there was strong support for it. And that ended up being 263 signatures, which is really pretty impressive, and a total value of $325 million. And so that accounts for 67% of the district. Then there's a couple of others, commitments that we haven't received yet that's all already well in excess of what we need, but there's a few other commitments that would push it over 70% of the district once those come in. Just a few kind of interesting facts about it. There was 73 properties have new owners, and so a lot of times that's one of the challenges in getting these renewed is you have people that are unfamiliar and trying to catch people up. I think we've talked about it in the board meetings before, but the communications and outreach to the property owners is something just we have to constantly be working on. Of those 73, 35 of them signed. And then we also had 40 new parcels that were created in the district since 2014, and that comes from condos coming online, from people making changes to plats, any number of things. And so it was a lot more properties that we were looking at as well. Lots of compliments on the ambassador team, David's crew, who are really out there every day, and so that was really great to hear. And really only a handful of people that really had complaints. Some of them, you are more subjective, I guess. People who feel that they want to see ambassadors in their specific area more often. Occasionally that comes from people who may not actually be down there to see when the ambassadors are there, but some people that had complaints about parking, which comes up with any downtown meeting you ever have. And then occasionally some comments on things like, can the district do big projects? What else can the district do? So things you would expect to hear, but by and large, really pretty supportive people. The biggest challenge was reaching the people that had never heard of the district and trying to catch people up and explain what it was and what the district can do for them and how it's bringing value. And so I would, we had a lot of people in the room that really did a lot of work. Thomas and Beverly I mentioned, but also Clay and Jim, Paula, Dougie, Lisa, everybody on the team really did a great job reaching out to meet this threshold in a pretty quick time frame. So 3 months is a pretty fast sprint to put our plan into action and get this done. So.
One, thanks to everyone on the committee, and we also did some work ahead of the public launch, and I think Woodford was instrumental in kind of getting us off the ground with some of the large property owners, so thanks for that. And just to give perspective, before I got here, the district, they tried to start the district twice, and so to be able to kind of complete this in 90 days, really, a public outreach in 90 days, I think is testament to the impact that you've begun to make and the process that was in place and the people who went after it to get the petitions. Give you some additional perspective. I think Covington, Kentucky launched their initiation of a district, in April, and I think they're still working on that. I know of a district right now that's going through their 10-year renewal, and they have a year timeline of what they're anticipating will take for them. So again, I think it's just a great job, and I think again it's a testament to what the board and the management district are doing.
Makes a big difference in the leadership in the room. Really leads it. Thank you.
Ethan,
Yeah.
You said 67% of the ratepayers. You got
67% of the value, and
okay,
so
value. Okay, what
there's
percentage of the ratepayers?
52% of the ratepayers, roughly. And so there's the two thresholds that by state statute that we have to meet are 33% of the ratepayers that the properties have to sign on. So you have 33% of the properties, and then 50% of the actual value of those district has to be accounted. So you're really looking at two things.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
It wasn't an easy lift, I'll have to tell you. And the low-lying fruit was the easiest to get, but the end was a struggle. And we had people who signed first time because we said, give us a chance, let's see what this will do. Now they're asking questions. And I think we're gonna have to do something to make ourselves more visible and more noticeable. I don't know if signage is gonna work or not, but we were kind of sweating bullets at the end just to make sure it was done before the end of the year. It was not an easy ride.
There's a handout in your packet, a 2-page handout you may want to just peruse when you can. It's a interesting list of those who were contacted, who had a lot of hard questions, who ultimately signed, and those who were contacted had a lot of hard questions and ultimately did not sign. And all of us in this room know the vast majority on both pages. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know. And because I guess I'm too close to it, I'm a little astounded that people don't know what the management district is. And I guess that's my failing not to promote it enough. But I can't believe after 5 years, people don't know who David and his crew are. And I guess they know that, but maybe there's a disconnect between them and this board. I don't know.
Well,
Go ahead, Beverly.
So the other challenge is we have a lot of property owners that aren't necessarily downtown every day as well, that either may even live outside of Lexington, or they've retired and aren't down here as often but still own the property, and that becomes a challenge as well.
Beverly?
I think limiting the renewal to 5 years helped versus 10. Just to give the property owners a comfort level that let's just tiptoe back into this one more time. And then if we can do well in the next 5 years, I think maybe then we go for it.
Go for the 10.
But, you know, some of these kind of surprise me, like Bob Estes, he's trying to sell this building right now, so he probably thinks a vote for yes decreases his value. Pat Madden surprises me a little bit, but he's a suburban guy, really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Pat and his dad own the PNC Bank and the garage.
Okay.
They have a land contract on that, and the company that owns the building and the garage is in financial straits. So Pat said that it was not up, that he, under the contract, was not the one to sign for those two properties. And then he said, I wouldn't even contact the real estate company, so we didn't do that. That's why. But what I was going to say is, honestly, these are just people that I knew that I contacted, and Fraser suggested. I mean, I just went through my notes. I was surprised how many petitions we got through personal contacts, and these people, weeks and weeks and weeks, and Ethan and I were going, oh my God, are we ever going to get this? No. And so these people signed really because of a personal contact, a phone call. I went to their house. I drove petitions to their farm. I stood there while they signed. But about David, everybody, when I would say, well, and do you know what the management district does? Or many people would say, well, what does the management district do? I was surprised at that, just like you. But more than anything, they know block by block and the people in the purple shirts. But I honestly, I'm like you. I was surprised what a heavy lift it was. I mean, I thought after 5 years, people would know, and they would, these petitions would come flowing in, and it didn't work that way. So, for whatever that says, I think we need to think about how to lift the profile and the visibility of the management district.
Everybody had their own, and Woodford and I talked about this. Everybody's got their own thing, what they'd like to see the management district do, and I don't think it breaches the confidence. Phil Hollenbeck was extremely vocal about what his expectations are, and he wants to see public art, and that's great. But I mean, as we told Phil, it's expensive to do big, huge public art. We have a finite amount of money. We don't have millions of dollars in this budget, and so and then some people want more cleanliness. One gentleman who was upset we don't clean enough in front of his particular store on Short Street. Well, he comes in and cleans it himself before we get there at 7:30 in the morning. So it's little things that become personal while they don't want to do things. But at the end of the day, Phil signed. Thanks to, I didn't realize that Clay was part of the mob, but anyway. We all leaned on Phil in our own way, and then we sent Beverly to sit in his office till he signed it. But it all takes a village. But it's interesting how everybody has their own specific personal bent of why it's not working or what could be done better. So that's a challenge to us. We need to keep that in mind.
I think it is too.
One person that owned a couple of properties was upset because downtown events make his parking lot dirty. And it's not that we can get on private property or private parking lots and clean that for him, but that just happened to be his issue. I should also add, we had 117 people that are parcels that signed that did not sign in 2014, which is interesting as well. So.
I'll say though, and Lawrence and Woodford will remember this, several years ago before Renee left DLC, she had had some kind of survey done. People knew the DLC events, they just didn't know what DLC was. Right. So, I mean, sometimes getting the the management name out there is tough, even though people know what you've done.
And following up on that, it seems a small thing because people like to talk in abbreviations today. Instead of the the Downtown Lexington Partnership, it's the DLP or the whatever the management district is. And I think we might keep that in mind, that initials just go right past a lot of us. And if we're speaking about the management district, it might be good just to say the management district, just for reinforcement.
We did have owners that had 7 apartments in our building, about $1.3 million, and they wouldn't sign the last time. And they subsequently sold their house and moved into the building, the penthouse. And I thought, oh, well, what's this gonna be like this time? Well, they've been living downtown, and it's so clean, and it's so nice, and the purple shirt said, oh, she said, of course I'll sign them. So we got 7 signatures just because of
Purple shirts.
yeah, purple shirts and the image of downtown looking cleaner. She's been walking downtown. She's never done that before, so that's a positive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Beverly, did you speak with Dennis Anderson? I was wondering if Dennis signed the last time.
No.
He did not,
He
and we
didn't.
did speak to him. We all spoke to him.
Yeah, I expected,
Well,
boy,
his-
he benefits.
Yeah.
He wanted to know how the management district money was spent. And I didn't follow up with him to give him a budget.
Well, I did. Because Beverly, she wore my phone out the last 60 days, and I know Dennis, and we're friends, but Dennis is a tough nut. He doesn't believe in taxation. I get that. That's fine. We're all, okay. And I showed him exactly how thin we operate this thing, sometimes maybe too thin. But at the end of the day, and I agree with you, Jake, he does benefit greatly from what we do. Terry even we had to send the sheriff's office people over there to kind of let him get a little more love over there than maybe the rest of us, trying to convince. We couldn't get it done, so you can't get them all, And I said, Dennis, whether you come along or not, we're going to get this done. You're going to be taxed, so you might as well get on board with us. But
Who was that?
Dennis Anderson at Park Plaza.
Remember how nasty that plaza used to be?
Oh,
and
really? Yeah.
dangerous and everything else?
Yes. So, and with Debbie Long, another one.
Yes.
Respect her to death, but I cannot get over the parking hurdle with her. And it has nothing to do with the management district, it has nothing to do with the parking authority. It's the private lots on those streets that she has concern, and none of us at this table can help her on that, and that's frustrating for her, and I get it. And so it's all individualized. It's hard but I think everybody did a great job, and I thank all of you for everything you did. I think Terry's idea of this microcosm meeting group we had was a great one. We met like once a week for a while there, and it really kind of got people focused on the list, and we just kept checking them off, and everybody did what they had to do, so thank you all. I'm going over on the 14th of this month at 3 p.m., I believe, to present our first information to the council. Everyone here is welcome to come. I'd love to have you there. It's not mandatory, but it's 3 o'clock across the street on the 14th. Love to see some purple shirts, hint, hint. Since you're so popular and I'm not, so maybe I need some backup over there, David. But so I'll be presenting to the council our renewal request and some of the things, our accomplishments of what we've gotten done, some of the successes, and some of the goals for the future. So hopefully we'll get another 5-year renewal. But that we've already filed our document. There's a PowerPoint presentation that'll go along with my presentation they did internally here for me. Actually, Jacob did it. I didn't do anything. I'll be over there and reading it, presenting it. And you've got a new ordinance and things. You want to address that, Jacob?
I do. Good morning, everybody. I had told you all last time a little bit overview of the process, and now we're in it. But just as a refresher, as Ethan mentioned, we're well in excess of the legal requirements to submit the petition. But there is a verification process that goes on that the Urban County government verifies that they're legitimate petitions. That process is ongoing. We don't anticipate any problems because of how far we are ahead of the legal targets. But that process is going on right now. As Jim mentioned, he'll be giving a presentation. That's the council work session. That's an informational item. I think I want to really express my appreciation to Ethan. He helped provide a lot of good information, but I think the most powerful, and those of you who know my day job know I'm kind of the king of the PowerPoint, but there's a lot of before and after photos, what it looked like before versus what it looks like now, and those are very powerful images. So I think that will show a lot of the work, the tangible work that's actually been done by David's crew and by the management district. Following that presentation, we get on a timeline to actually have the ordinance docketed. The ordinance will go through the council's work session on January 28th. That's where the council will decide to put it on the docket or not and discuss any questions that they may have. Presuming that it is placed on the docket, it would receive first reading on February 6th. Any taxing district has to have a public hearing. It's a legally mandated process. That will occur on the same date as the second reading, which is February 20th. So all things go according to plan. We should receive a council vote and renewal on February 20th. Have been in conversation with the administration about the ordinance and any changes they would like to see. We've traded a couple of drafts back and forth. If you'll indulge me for just a minute, I'll walk through what those changes are. I would say the ordinance is about 95% the same as what you're operating under now. Obviously, the most noteworthy change is the district will now terminate on July 1st, 2025 instead of 2020. That's obviously the biggest thing we're trying to accomplish. There were a few other items that were amended aside from correcting some typographical errors or information that's no longer current. 2 members will be added to this board as at-large members, but they take the place of 2 current ex officio members. So you'd have 2 additional at-large members who don't have to be tied to any particular organization, in lieu of ex officio members of the chair of the Downtown Lexington Corporation and the chair of the Downtown Development Authority. That's not to suggest that those people can't serve, it's just they're not automatically on the board anymore. There has been an addition that an officer of DLP, DLC, I'll take Beverly's advice, the Downtown Lexington Partnership, the Downtown Lexington Corporation, the Lexington Downtown Development Authority, anyone who's affiliated with those organizations cannot serve as chair or vice chair of this board. Again, still eligible to participate, just can't serve as chair. The other changes were what I would call cleanup conditions. There is a specific notation that we're subject to the Open Records and Open Meetings Act. Spoiler alert, you were anyway, but now it's explicitly in the ordinance so nobody can claim otherwise, not that we ever have. The other 2 changes were what I think were very minor. An explicit note that members of this board are subject to the LFUCG's Ethics Act. Again, I don't think there's been any questions about the ethics of this board, and I think you probably were anyway. This just calls it out explicitly. The other change is, and I think this is a process you've already been engaged in, but that you need to use LFUCG's procurement process, that you have to competitively bid things that are being purchased. Those were the entirety of the changes that were suggested. Everything else is carryover from the ordinance you've been working on now. I've been in contact with the Department of Law. We're having the legal advertisement placed for the public hearing. That has to be advertised in the Lexington Herald Leader. The management district's obligated to pay for that, but the council clerk's office is actually who places the ad. So we've been working through that process. Really been relatively smooth. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about anything I raised, but it's been a pleasure working on this, and I'm really glad. It looks like we're really getting close to getting across the finish line.
So why would we take automatic chair seat for the chair of the DLP off this?
That was a request from the administration. It wasn't anything that we volunteered, but that was a request of the urban county government.
And it had to do with now DLP, which is a combination of, as you know, both of those people on this board when they are a contracted entity.
Right. Because they work for the organization?
And, you know, the thinking.
It adds a lot of benefit, having
Well,
that
and-
person, but maybe not on that.
But the next step was actually in that thought process. The next step was to a point that you brought up a couple of times, which was in the back of our mind, which it also frees up to make sure that we have, depending on the mix at any given time, 2 more business folks from the district on there.
Any other questions about the ordinance changes? So the 14th at 3 p.m., all are welcome, across the street. I'm not letting you off, David. All right, let's move on if we could. Off-duty patrol, police patrol update. I talked to Sheriff Witt yesterday. She sent me an email last night to give me kind of the latest update. We'll be winding down with that contract. If you recall, we budgeted, you remember how much? 50,000. We're bumping up close to it, but January and February will be very light months because of the weather. We don't have nearly the participation outside, therefore we will not be using her as much during the next 2 months. She told me that the number of encounters and disturbances have dropped greatly in the entertainment district. They had 9 arrests the last month. A combination of alcohol intoxication, theft by unlawful taking, and assault on an officer. They've also assisted the Lexington Police Department on a few occasions, one being a attempted suicide. So we have had our folks down there. There have been no incident reports at Center City, 21C, or the downtown Hilton during the last 30 days. The incidents seem to be primarily occurring outside the Roxy and Stagger Inn. You all know where those are. And she also said that a lot of the citizens they've come in contact with and the employees have expressed their appreciation for their presence there. And so I think what we wanted to accomplish, the visual, the optics of seeing the uniforms there, I think hopefully have been received well and accomplished the goal of which we initiated for. Any questions about Sheriff Witt and her group? Okay, Terry, you want to give us a DLP update?
Yeah, just quickly, 2 things coming up. We have our joint annual meeting March 25th, and it'll be at the Marriott City Center, so very excited to be at that new venue. And then State of Downtown will happen sometime around June. We're still working on a date. We're trying to have that take place at the Krikorian Theater, but we're working through, as they're trying to get open, working through that team, and we'll have further updates in the next meeting.
Any questions on those meetings? Put those on put that March date down if you would, March 25
Yes.
at Marriott. We really want to have a good showing for that, okay?
I think, is it this week we're sending out save the date, or next week? Next week. So y'all get save the date.
Okay, great. Property improvement grant update?
Sure, just a very brief update. And we have about 5 property grants, and then Beverly, I think, is talking for lighting in a second, but 3 lighting grants that are close to completion will be closed out. And so we'll have a good before and after presentation of a lot of these projects at the next meeting. But did want to mention we have $66,500 of property improvement grant funds remaining, and $5,335 of lighting grant funds. And so we're going to be doing some outreach over the next month to people who've expressed some interest in some projects and doing some improvements, particular trying to group some in areas that maybe need some help around a lot of the new developments, like close to the city center blocks where we have a lot of new things opening, Upper Street, Vine, some areas like that. So, but we do have some grant funds that we're getting ready to try to push out and get some more projects going. And then at the next meeting, we'll have a full update on the closeout of some of these projects and let you see some of the
So
pictures.
the 66,500 and for property improvement and the 3,500 for lights, those are earmarked funds for this fiscal year, right?
Correct.
So by June 30th, 2020. Now, who is on the grants committee again? Remind me.
So it's a mix of our advisory board members and some members from here. Andrew Moore, Lisa.
Steve.
I'm on it.
I'm on.
I said Jacob. I'm trying to think of who else. Lawrence, and then Ann Donworth, who was an advisory, a DLP advisory board member, who was on it as well, and then Cassidy Rosenthal.
So it'll be a
Yes.
cross-section, folks. Good, good. All right. Any questions on the property improvement? I mean, grants, truthfully, to me, next to the lights, which are one and the same, I guess, property improvement grants, this is our biggest calling card. We help business folks downtown improve their property to the benefit of all. I mean, I think that's great PR for us. So anything we can, if we've got friends, people that have an interest in wanting to improve the facades or whatever they've got, whether it be lighting or canopy or anything, please send them our way, okay? That's what we're here to do. Beverly, you want to add anything to the improvement grants? Property improvement grants?
No.
Okay.
I'll step in that regard. The first floor of Triangle Center, we added art for Farah there. That is still in place, that space is still vacant. What's our long-term plan? I don't have the answer, I'm just kind of.
Nor do I. Ethan?
Should we move it around? I mean, should we?
I think we can do it, we own it, we can do what we
Yeah, we
want
own
with it. Do you have any place we have any other empty storefronts we could relocate some of that?
We can look, there's not as many as you would think downtown. The first floor storefronts, the
Yeah.
vacancy's pretty low. I think when we checked last year, it was below 5%. We're updating that now, and then finding some that actually suit having art in the
I mean,
windows.
it makes it look nice, but then at some point it looks stale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like, it's been there so long, it just looks like.
I agree.
Clothing store or something.
I was talking about that with I'm sorry, I forgot. I was talking about that with Ms. K. It's like you said, stale. Like people have gotten so used to seeing it now. It's time for something different to go in that space and to relocate the art, because the board owns the art, doesn't it?
Right, yeah.
Correct.
And can put that somewhere else. I know she might have some ideas about something to put over there.
Kate, speak up.
Well, I made a presentation before to this board about my mobile gallery presentation, where I take, let me stand up, where I take local artwork into corporate spaces and every 3 months rotated. And I had a schedule worked out, and I had a presentation that was made in my absence about this time last year. I think Jim made it.
It was.
For example, McBrayer subscribed to my service. The artwork here changes every 3 months, and several other places in the building. And I offered that service as an alternative way to very affordably produce a public art exhibition every 3 months that you could showcase with signage and make quite a sort of a big deal about it. At the same time, draw attention to the fact that you were supporting local artists. I really think that it's an extremely reasonable way for you to get some attention. And Phil Hollerbook, I mean, that would be a great way to tell him that you're doing something. And it wouldn't be the big $20,000, $60,000 dollar public art piece, but nevertheless, it would be something that would be refreshed every 3 months. I'm kind of on the fly right now, but it would be refreshed every 3 months. It would be well lit. People could see it. You could, beat the tom-tom every time it changed. You could put it in your newsletter. You could showcase the artist. I think there are lots of little pieces and parts to it that you could really cash in on for a very reasonable annual subscription rate, in a nutshell.
Well, I mean, and that's great and all, but it's where do you put the art? For example, we've favored Farah's first floor space for 3 years here now with art that we bought. We really didn't know what we were doing at the time. It was Nicholson's fault.
He's not here, we'll let him.
No, but and I'm all for Phil Holovec's larger public art stance. But I think in the next 5 years, what we ought to do is think about a monumental type public art project, so that we could, on the 10-year request for a renewal, then bond that 10 years and maybe go with Lexington's beam. What's our
Well,
beam?
but for
What's our Chicago
example-
beam? And with a 10-year renewal in 5 years, we could bond something and maybe do something really cool. That I'm thinking in the next 5 years, we think about what that could be. And that could help us sell a 10-year renewal in 5.
The sculpture that they've commissioned for the celebration of the emancipation of women, that is over $500,000. You all have contributed, I think, $20,000. But that gives you some idea of the scope of this sort of
Yeah.
thing. And that's great, but $500,000 would wipe you out, even if you saved up for it over a 10-year period. And I think to try to make that sort of splash is great, but maybe not necessarily very realistic. And
Well,
this
if you have a
year,
10-year renewal and your budget's $500,000 a year, you take $100,000 a year, bond it, and get $1 million project. $1 million beam, whatever that is, and still do what we're empowered to do.
Right, no, I think I agree with you on that. The question is, what do we do with, Farrah's got a lot of dark windows there, and that's why we went there first. You and I talked about this
And we can
years
rotate art
ago.
all day long, and
I know.
that, in essence,
You could do it in
enhances
addition to
Farrah.
some huge project.
Maybe unfairly versus other property owners around. That's my point.
I hate to see that spot dark. At the same time, I hate to see the same thing over and over and over. I get it. I agree with you. So what's?
I don't know the answer.
I don't either. I'm just throwing it out here. Anybody have some ideas? I mean, Kate's put one on the table for us. You know, Beverly and I've talked, I'm all about light too. I mean, you could, you know, maybe you'd change it. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to see, I don't want to see it dark. I don't think any of us do. We all walk by there, you know, especially going to ball games and stuff. A lot of people use that traffic right there,
Well,
so.
to give you a dollar figure, I was asking for a $6,000 a year subscription to change out those 10 pieces every quarter. And it could be $3,000 to change it out twice a year. So it's not something that would necessarily cut into your bigger vision. And in the interim.
What do we do with our existing art that we paid,
Well-
what, 25,000 for?
32.
32,000? Yeah.
Jim,
Yes, sir.
do you think maybe would he be open to maybe the concept, because I worry about the dark windows too, would he be open, you think, to the concept of maybe one of these pop-up shops where we're putting people in there and that are maybe getting into business? They're basically testing it, 1 or 2 people shops typically. At least you have life in that window at that point.
What, is that all just open space behind there?
It's open space,
Yeah.
Does Farrah own it still?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. At ground floor, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Did he vote for
He did sign up. I don't know, petition-wise, twice.
No, I mean, he's
You got two petitions, yeah. Of course, he's been a benefactor. And he did put in the electric for us, so I will say that, because we didn't have electric there initially. It was just those, you know, I wanted something you could see from the street at night. The idea was make it look like Macy's. It really didn't, but it was better than we had. So I'm open for whatever y'all would like to do. I mean, I think, Kate, you did make a presentation through me. I probably didn't do a very good job. Why don't you come prepared in March to full-blown put this back on the table for us officially? I'd like to, we just need to have discussion about this. I'm like, we all agree it's tired, and I think we probably could sell it for so many cents on there. Or I'd like to go find some empty storefronts and just one here, one there, and light it up so it just kind of, you know, won't go to waste.
On your website, just FYI, when Marjorie's work was installed in those windows, there was also a piece in the menu where people could go in and request those artworks. The original intent was that those works be rotated. I think it was going to be handled through Marjorie, but you might check that or look at that on your website, because I think it's something that was offered that's never been promoted and has never obviously gotten any traction. But I think that even the opportunity to request 1 or 2 of the artworks was there in this submission on your website. It's still there. So I think there was a different intent initially, and it's just stagnated, as has the artwork, as has the whole concept. And I think some pieces in those windows that just pop, and some signage that gives you the opportunity to brag on producing a public art showing every quarter, and newsletter credits. I think it has lots of possibilities that would very cheaply give you, at least initially, immediately, whilst you're saving for a big beam, you know, the image that you're doing something.
Yeah, in hindsight, we probably shouldn't have purchased that much art. We probably should have rotated art at a cheaper level, rented it, or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, it does have some value if we did end up selling it. But you could even look at wraps, like the wrap on italics on the corner there. That's better than an empty window, just having a wrap over the glass. And that also promotes the coming soon restaurant or whatever.
Could we take our art and display it like in hotel lobbies, try to sell it? potentially,
See,
like in the Hilton,
we'll work with Lex Arts.
Marriott.
Lex Arts or someone
Yeah.
to see if we can get it out there to sell it, get the dollars in and reinvest it in a program or something. Yeah.
That's an interesting idea, Lawrence.
Or
The,
banks.
Yeah. Bank lobbies.
Lexarts periodically has a call to artists to submit work because they are answering a request from some hospitals here in town. Right now, they are helping to provide artwork which will be sold to the new, it's part of hospice, but they've built a new building, hospice has, and they need artwork, so artists are submitting art. The fact that you're not the artist doesn't mean that you couldn't submit those pieces by Guyon to see if you could resell them on. Just a thought following on from that.
Hospice want it for free, I think.
Yeah, they will.
Former chairman of the board.
Stan, do you got any ideas?
Oh, sure. I'm sure.
Oh, no, they're
Do with
buying
some of
them.
these
They're buying it?
places?
Excuse me?
I was talking to Stan Harvey. Stan, what do you think?
I mean, the only other option is even more complicated, which is, I assume we've had discussion of, is there temporary uses of storefront space, for organizations or things like that. But I think, to me, the key would be rotate, if you had something that was going to rotate and that also was equitable and moved around to other properties, that would be something that seems more fair and reasonable.
Catherine, when she was here, sent out so you'll remember, Jim, Catherine sent out a postcard to all the people who were stakeholders, because when I first presented this concept, it actually was approved by the old board. And then there was a big question as to who was interested in having this artwork, because we were offering it to everybody who was a stakeholder. And I think Catherine had something like 15 responses, Jim. Do you remember that?
I do.
Way back when. And then there was the question as to how we would get them to pay, whether it all kind of got mired up in the red tape of it all. But there was some stirrings around all of this once before. Just to speak to Stan's
Sure.
suggestion, that there was interest out there from empty storefronts and places that did take the bait.
I guess just spitballing, the other thing would be to do displays on projects or things. I think people are interested in what's coming. They always kind of want a sneak peek of projects or something, what it will be like or whatever, so you could have a kind of development display on, that wouldn't cost a lot. You would just be assembling materials on projects that are proposed or other things like that.
Somebody has to do it.
Yeah. I leaned on Clay a lot last time. If you remember, Clay, I kept calling you to find me because you have a lot of signs downtown. Give me some empty windows that we could put some light into.
Not a lot.
I know, that's the thing, which is great.
And if there are, they're either too small or they're not going to be attractive. to the
Yeah, they're not
outside.
street level. That's what you really need on, I guess some not, but yeah. Well, if anybody sees a location that's dark that we could probably reaccess some stuff and move it over, that'd be great. And I'd like to have some thoughts between now and when we meet in Beverly. And if you'll come back, Kate, and make a formal presentation to us with some specifics again to refresh everybody's memory, including mine. And Ethan, if you could, maybe on the website, take a look at that and maybe put out to the public, anybody interested in doing what Kate talked about, maybe accessing some of their properties so it's spread around. Where we just focused on fair, not because it was fair, just because it was right there and it was so much of it and it was so dark for so long. That's the only reason.
It's very visible.
Oh,
That block.
yeah, it's going to be more so once we light up our tubes. So, okay. Anything else on property improvement grants? Let's go to Lex Light's update. Who wants that one?
Okay, I will do a brief update. The lights are have been installed in the 2 pedestrian walkways over Broadway. And Matt from Vincent Lighting in Cincinnati is down this week, the whole week, to program the lights. And tonight at 7 o'clock, if you're interested in seeing what he has programmed so far. We're going to meet at 7 o'clock under the pedway between the Hyatt and 300 West Vine. The lights have to be programmed for essentially every day of the year. So he's using, he's going to use the Helix Garage calendar. So you can change lights for, have them blue for UK game days and red for Valentine's Day, on and on and on. So tonight he's just going to show, I think, some of the things that the lights can do, the different colors, the patterns, the speeds that these lights can change. So if you want to come, 7 o'clock tonight. And so we're going to write a press release. So, that's the other thing. Instead of just turning them all on, like tonight, I think we should, and I asked Matt about this and he's fine with it, send out a press release and set a night, and it could be whatever we choose, this Friday night or Monday night or whenever, at a time, and just say we're going to turn the lights on. So if the Herald Leader or any of the television stations or anybody else would like to come and see the lights on the two pedways. And these are aesthetic light. It's aesthetic lighting designed to be viewed from the street. It's not utilitarian lighting that you need to get through the pedways. So he sent me a picture last night. It was like, oh my God, of one of them. This is going to be so cool. So I hope it is.
How hard will it be, let's say, we have Breeders' Cup next
Yes.
fall, and their color is purple. So how difficult would it be to light it purple?
It's not
It's
hard. Let me tell you what,
not
we did it
hard.
when
It's not
Prince
hard.
died. I can
Okay.
certainly do it.
So we can adapt to certain
Mayor took
events or
credit.
convention events in town.
So, and the two pedways,
Alltech, they want to light it up for their one conference that they do per year, certain college.
oh, you can do anything.
You can do anything, Woodford. I mean, well, I'd like to coordinate it with the garage, so they all kind of have that same theme. And then on the Vic Square garage, that corner of Broadway and Short, we just authorized $300,000 in parking authority. We're going to redo that corner to put some lights and a big retro sign. So we're going to bring a lot of light and focus to that area right there. I think it'll all, when you put it all together, it's really going to be that wow factor we've all been trying to accomplish downtown.
Well, and I talked to Luann Franklin
Mhm.
Friday night at the Concert with the Stars, and if you've noticed the some of the infrastructure for the marquee that's going on the front of the Opera House is in place. Well, maybe the marquee, I guess, is going this way, and then there will be a vertical sign. So it's, some of that infrastructure is in place. So that's going to happen. She doesn't know exactly when.
I think going forward, isn't the new Rubberino wrap going to light up too?
I'm
Different
sure
from
it
what
will.
it is, yeah.
Mhm, yeah, so,
That'd be nice.
there's, but the two pedways, your garage and the Opera House, right there, those few blocks of Broadway are going to be really bright. And the Triangle Foundation has, Steve Grossman has mentioned that they are interested in uplighting the trees in Triangle Park, and I think there are, like 57 of those trees. So anybody who is planning a lighting project, I'm encouraging them to get it done for Breeders' Cup. Oh, and one other thing, the project that's also in the works is new lighting for the Fifth Third Pavilion, because that pavilion lighting, the pavilion opened about 9 years ago, and it's old lighting, so we have worked closely with Parks and Recreation to get a lighting company and a design for those lights. The concern of Parks and Rec is that the lights be sturdy enough that when they power wash the interior of the pavilion, that it doesn't dislodge the lighting. So we've got, I think, fixtures that will withstand the light, the washing. And what comes next is to pay for the lights, and they're going to be about right at $100,000. So I am thinking.
Is this with the same lighting contractor we're using for the headways, or
No.
is it different? So why use something different?
Well, because Vincent Lighting wasn't interested. They really like big projects. And I mean, I think Adam Hayward may have, well, Vincent Lighting was interested because they did the Helix Garage. Okay.
And what's the name of the lighting project? Don't we have a catchy
Well,
marketing
Lex
name?
Lights.
Lex Lights, okay.
Yeah.
We're going to promote that as new lights come on board.
I think, yeah, I think so. And
You know, whether it's Lexington Center or the Pedway,
yeah.
any kind of new lights, we ought to
I-
promote it as being part of that program.
I think that's an excellent idea, yeah.
And give it
The-
as much press as we can out of it.
Mhm.
And I told Beverly, I think on these tubes, and you know, when I say this a bit selfishly, I think all those organizations and folks who came and put their money in the table to raise this money, because not one penny we didn't ask the government for anything. Now, some of it came from DLMD, which is tax money, but parking authority, everybody, individuals, I'd like to see them recognized. We got this money together pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was
You know.
$200,000
Yeah.
for these, to come up with the design and the manufacture and installation of the lights for the Pedway. Well, I'm just going to do a press release, and we can mention all of
I
those
think we need to,
names.
you've got the list of all those.
Even the old
contributors.
courthouse, I mean, it's
Yeah.
great.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the lights on the trees down Main Street and Vine Street gonna stay up, they look great too.
Yeah, they look great.
Yeah. Really good.
Chris?
They stay up just after Christmas, or they stay
Yeah,
up for
we'll keep
winter?
them up for,
What?
instead, well, yeah, we'll keep them up for another month or two.
Yeah.
They
Is
look
that
really
something we
good.
could do permanently, or is that just
Yeah, I
not,
think
not
that's so
cost
good.
efficient? What is the deal on that?
Well, we have to replace, they're on a 3-year rotation. We keep the lights up for 3 years at a time. We take them off and give the trees a year of rest.
I see.
It's very labor intensive for us. It's a high cost for us to keep them lit year round. Because like, for example, during Christmas, we had to pay out someone overtime 2 hours a night just to go check them. We have a lot of vandalism problems. We've had to replace a lot in just the month of December. So, like one night, somebody went around and cut 10 of them.
Oh,
Yeah,
dear.
So, and then we got to restring them,
That's so
you know,
annoying.
so. Yeah.
Well, they look great.
They look really
really
good.
make the downtown.
Yeah, you just go
pop.
wow when you come down.
Yeah. Huh.
And lighting is a form of public art. I mean, that's right.
I agree.
Yeah, it is. Everybody likes it. Lights are inviting, and then they're also a deterrent for people who are up to nefarious activities. So it's been well received. So any money that the management district could, you know, add to our little, what do we have, 3,500 left or 5,300 left? You would be surprised how much of an incentive, like $1,000 or $2,000 is to a property owner. I mean, and people who can afford the lights, but I think they just feel that if they get a grant, it makes them a little bit special.
Have you had any luck with the downtown churches, getting them to light up the
Well,
structures?
Christ Church, they are going to light their bell tower, and we gave them a small grant. I think they're going to apply for another one. First Pres has lit its steeple. I have to go back to the past, like 2 or 3 months, we've been so focused on getting the petition signed that I really haven't done anything with lighting, and so it's now time to pick that back up. But Central Christian Church is just, the whole thing is dark. And they used to have lights, their stained glass images were lit, the exterior was lit, so that and the First Baptist Church on West Main Street, the African American church. I called them and didn't get a very good response from the woman I talked to, which all goes to say that you have much more effective communication when you make an appointment and go sit down and talk to somebody, you know. And I will say that, I mean, what you all have done at City Center really has just put Lex Lights on the map, and I was so pleased when Dudley said, yeah, you can call this part of Lex Lights. You gave us the idea. Well, good, you know. But it's just been a terrific
More lights than I
addition.
thought we were gonna do.
Well, and apparently you're going to do your garage too, some lighting on the garage. There are other lighting projects in the works. But everything, please, let's try to get it done for Breeders' Cup. You know.
Thank you very much, Beverly. You did a great job, and everybody is, I think all the benefit looks good for all of us. And let me know what we can help on the press release, 'cause I'd like to try to get it out. You know, we have a ball game here Saturday night. A lot of
Saturday
people-
noon.
Saturday noon, well, that won't work. Forget that, scratch that idea. Okay. Just think, we ought to get a date. I like your idea. You okay with that, Woodford? Try and find a date certain, and we'll just announce it's coming so
Great
people
idea.
will know that, so let's work on that.
Oh.
Y'all
And I
put
think we gotta
together a
keep
new
this list of
line.
negative people on the renewal, just to kind of make sure we have it for the next time.
Mhm.
And-
Yeah.
And also just work with them over the next 5 years that each group, to make sure that they see the benefits.
Well, keep the other list, because there are many of these people on that list, honestly, who would not have signed if we had not gone and talked to them personally. So I think it just, again, speaks to the value of talking to individuals personally, and, you know, to get the message out about the management district more clearly and more strongly.
To help on something like that, you know, I was just thinking, would it be, because I like Whitford's idea of watching those people on the list, but would it be maybe worth trying to have some kind of small, and I mean small, reception, maybe in that atrium-ish area of the square, where you invite everybody in and thank them for signing the petition, even invite the ones maybe who didn't, and then do a formal kind of, here it is, kind of deal, to maybe, it makes it more media attractive as well.
And we can get that space, I'm sure, for free, maybe have Saul Good cater it with hors d'oeuvres, and something like that.
It's a good idea.
Or one of the restaurants, not necessarily Saul Good, but one of them in there could help.
Oh, it's a good idea.
So that'd be the end of February, if everything works on Jacob's calendar, so that's February 20th. You'd want to wait till after that,
Well, I
right?
think you can go ahead and thank people, whenever you want to do this, I think you can go ahead and thank
Thank 'em
people for
first.
signing.
The petition. Yeah, I wouldn't want to wait till February 20th,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
No, I was just thinking,
Yeah.
you know, you helped us through, and
Uh-huh. That's a
So,
great idea.
Having a reception for everybody who signed.
Yeah, and then, and invite those, even those who didn't.
Yeah.
Invite Debbie and Dennis and the whole hee-haw gang, yeah.
because they're still part of the district.
That's right.
They may not have signed, but they're still part of
Absolutely,
the
they're
district.
still part of the district.
Yeah.
That's right.
So do you call it something else besides, you don't want to call it, thank you for signing, and then invite people that didn't sign?
So I
you know,
think you
maybe-
key it off the lighting of the pedways, but it's just an opportunity to say thank you. I
Lex
think
Lights reception.
how you name it is key, yeah.
Yeah, Lex Life, but yeah, I think we could thank everybody for their participation and their help, and those who didn't, well, you know, you're getting the, yeah, I got it. I think you're right. Well, let's work on that. Can you help on the location, Woodford?
Yeah.
Because I think that area'd be great. It's right there, too.
Right there.
So, Beverly, can we?
It would just help the square too, because people would leave and maybe go eat at Pies and Pints or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So I think we can get that done.
Okay, we're gonna do that probably sooner than later. We want to roll these lights out once we get a long enough lead time, right, to let people know.
Okay, so, did you
Lights
want the
on.
lights on for Saturday night?
No,
But
no,
you said the
I-
game's on.
It's, forget that. Just
Oh,
discuss
okay.
it.
Okay.
Pick a date.
We'll find a date for the grand opening of the lights, yes.
So they'll be
Okay.
ready to be turned on after tonight, is that right?
Tonight is a test,
Just to see how they're gonna look.
yeah,
Depending on tonight, we can figure out a date to.
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't know how much more testing there will need to be, but we'll find out tonight.
We kind of did this at the parking thing too. We had a couple tests to make sure all the bugs were worked out, and half of it came on, half of it didn't, you know, so stuff
Oh,
like that.
really?
But
Yeah.
We'll have a grand lighting opening or something. We'll figure out the words.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on lights? Anybody? All right, David, talk to us, block by block.
Very brief. I did a 3-year comparison on how we've been doing since we've started, and we've improved in a lot of areas, but there's still a lot of things that we're gonna have to get better at. And one of them is like the gentleman that you was talking about, as far as him cleaning his own area. I went over there and talked with him. You talking about Nash and Marshall?
Yes.
I spoke with both of them, right? And the area that he's talking about is not, it's private part of the property that he wants to be taken care of. It's the parking lot that's beside the building where people go around and do whatever they do over there.
I know.
But I talked to him and I tried to let him know that I'll do whatever I can to help him out with that. But like I told him, we're not out, it's dark then, you know, they try to clean up in the morning. But that was one thing, and as far as this list of people that didn't sign, I wanted to find out where their properties were and have a little more visibility over there so they can see what we're doing more often also. And it was only one other concern that I had, and it's one that we've already talked about before, but it's up again. I feel like the solution is simple, but it's not. Over at what is it, Cheapside, the property owners over there, something to benefit them as far as those covers being down at the pavilion. Is there any way to keep them up? Because as far as the property owners right there, Nate's and Central and everything, when you have them down, people starting to camp out inside there because it's a shelter. Is there any way to have those rolled up where they stay up? I know on Saturday, they have half of them down for farmers market because they only use half of the pavilion then. But having them down, we've already started to have come across people, they out sleeping, they got their blankets and everything. And I mean, there are places for them to go, but right there, I don't think it's a good idea as far as the property owners right there having all those. They're gonna, once you start having one show up, then a whole bunch of them will start camping out over there. And, you know, it's just not a good look. So is there any way to have those rolled up and they stay rolled up?
That's the agreement the farmer's market has with the Parks Administration and the mayor's office, so I'd have to look into it. I know they're not easily rolled up. I do know that. They're very expensive to maintain as well. You know, we'd like to get out of the business of having those up, you know, I don't know, during the winter anyway, but I can ask.
That was it for me. That's the one. And then I did do a color package this morning where on a picture have a little more pop, you can see what's going on, some of the things that we've been taking care of. Because a lot of times people don't see what we actually do, they see the end result. So, you know, I've added something before and afters and some of the things that we do.
Property owners, just show them what we do.
I think it's a great idea, Lawrence. Yeah. Ethan, could we make that happen?
Yeah, we can do that. And so we started, you know, we talked about some of the communication, and earlier this year we started doing something similar to that where we sent kind of a pamphlet out to all the property owners that showed before and after shots. We've also reactivated the Facebook page to try to get that a little more, I guess, more content, so we're actively, something people can see. Do that. And then in terms of the stats, the other thing I wanted to call attention to that David helped us with this past year is we asked him if he could do lots of business contacts, so directly going into businesses. So if you'll notice, from 42 business contacts in 2018, he almost doubled it to 76 in 19. So that's all been really helpful. But yeah, we definitely can get.
Through the renewal process, have we improved our list or spreadsheets about all the property owners within the district?
We got good content, yeah, email addresses, a lot of, yeah, absolutely. We cleaned up a lot and it helped. by
Watch
necessity.
for property transfers over the next 5 years. As much as we can track that, I think it's.
Yeah, and Ethan picked up a lot of the transfers, you know.
I think if Pat Madden and Dennis Anderson got this in their hand and saw what we did, I think that would probably help go a long way. And some others.
Mm-hmm. See if we can do that, Ethan.
Do you have a
Yeah.
timetable when you like to send something?
To the, you mean Lawrence's idea?
Or in terms of, were you thinking of a mailing to all property owners or just putting something together?
Do we have something going that way anytime soon? I don't want to spend the extra money just to do a mailer, but I think
We can.
at least put it on the website, at least put it on Facebook. I mean, I think we ought to at least, because I'm like Lawrence, pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Yeah. How many emails do we have now?
We can do, that's free.
Yeah,
Or this is-
yeah.
How many property emails do we have now?
I have to do a new count because we've had people sign them on all the petitions and
Yeah.
ask them to put their emails. And so I need to transcribe those to the.
Yeah. So I think before we had like 80, and so.
Probably got 263.
Yeah, so.
Or thereabouts.
So that we can at least get it out quickly to, on a regular basis, on a
Yeah.
monthly basis, to those folks that we do have the emails, and then work to try to get
If
the
there are
other
a
ones.
few you're missing, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
reach out to me, I've got like Pat Madden's.
Yeah.
Dennis,
Good.
Eric.
Let's just say we can do it via electronic email, see what we can get done.
And once a quarter, if we send a blast out,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
or if something significant goes on, it just helps people know what we're doing.
Right. David, anything else? Any questions for David? Yes, sir.
Sorry, David, could you explain what's happening with the trash? I know that's the one thing where this year there's just a whole lot more. Is it that you're concentrating more or is something changing?
A lot of the construction is finishing up, and in a lot of spots, they're leaving materials. Also added 2 ambassadors, so that's adding more to it. And but like I said, a lot of it is just more cleanup, more eyes out. At one point we weren't hitting the outskirts as often as we do now. Like we're at Oliver Lewis more this now, and over on what's your street, Rose and beyond Rose, Old Vine. We go in those areas like daily now, because they were never bad over there. But now I have someone going in those areas all the time just so they can be seen out there working. So that's the main reason for the increase. Like I said, with 2 additional people cleaning up, picking up those rubber cones that they keep leaving after they finish work on the streets and everything. Each one of those, the base on those weighs 16 pounds each one. So that's where the additional weight comes from.
Quick question, David. You know, when we were doing we filled in where the trees, the planters, where the trees sit in, we were gonna do that aggregate, instead of blocks.
Right.
What do we ever do with that?
I was
Because we did
trying.
it on shore or on upper.
Well,
places.
we was thinking about Vine Street, but with the work they're gonna be doing with Town Branch, we're not gonna try to get that done. But I was hoping we could get it done over at Triangle. There's 14 tree wells around there, but that doesn't belong to the city. That's the property owners. So we'll have to get with them to see if that would work for as far as one of their grants. See if they would apply for a grant to try to even do that around that building. Because that's
Maybe Triangle Foundation would split the cost.
yeah, because all those rocks and all the rocks just always pop.
Because they have it at Summit, and it looks great, in other places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can do different colors and everything around it. Doesn't have to be that brown.
Okay, anything else, anybody? Thank you, we have motion adjourned. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. We are adjourned.
And the 14s.
I was contacted by some guy a while back about getting Derek in, and I gave him.
We're doing it, yeah.
Yeah.
Festival.
Oh, he's going to be here for the festival.
I'll get Karen, she's my assistant. I'll get her.
Okay.
I've got your.
Let me know if he got
Stuff to you, and then you'll have her
Yeah, he
contact
does a musical
information.
festival, yeah, he's coming. So that's March.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I got that, I believe. She doesn't.